Shout out to all the loyal Wakurugenzi. With me is none other than the land connoisseur himself, Manati Bila Gredi, Pedi wa Mashake. Shamba ya Karen unaiangalia kwa nini? Una window shop pizza na pesa ya madondo. Surely.
Surely, surely, surely. Let it stop block. 43 top block. Facebook, TikTok block.
Build a home with you. Build a home with you. And I could be anywhere in the world, but home is where I'm with you.
Are we live? Yeah, okay. Good evening, all. 7:02 p.m. Apologies for the slight delay. Having some technical difficulties back here that we're still trying to fix. So if I disappear or something of that sort happens, please forgive. We will sort it out as soon as possible. And thank you for tuning in. Our usual Thursday live event, question and answer session with yours truly, Solomon Wangwe, founder, managing director of Goshen Acquisitions Limited, as well as its wholly owned subsidiary, Grand Acres, the best, hands down, the best land sellers, the safest land sellers, the most trustworthy land sellers in Kenya. So please send your questions in if you have any. If you have a friend, family member, loved one, people that you like only, as always, good vibes only, send them the link. Ask them to send in the questions. Don't hold back. There is no such thing as a dumb question. We're here to help based on our experience, 11 and a half years successfully trading on land in Kenya. We know a thing or two, and hopefully you can learn from that and avoid any landmines or pitfalls along your land buying, your property ownership, property investment journey here in Kenya, whether you're here locally or in the diaspora, like our favorite attendee, Washu Ndirangu. We see you. Thank you for tuning in, Washu. As always, we really appreciate your presence every single time. If you're like Washu and residing outside of Kenya and are a serious investor like Washu is, this is very helpful for you as well. So share widely, ask questions if you have any. Let's have a lovely time for the next 56 minutes up until 8 p.m. as always. And I pray that it is edifying to you. So let's get started. Rafiki Concepts Limited. Thank you for tuning in. I see you say that you're ready to listen and learn. So are we. We're ready to listen because we also learn from time to time. And remember, if I don't have an answer to your specific question, I will find out for you because I know who to ask. And if by some chance, high likelihood that we don't get to your question in time, also please do not take offense. I try to go through as many questions as possible, as quickly as possible within the hour that we have, but also providing enough detail that it's a meaningful answer. So if you don't get to your question, please forgive, don't take offense. If it's urgent enough that you don't want to wait until next week, send it through anyway. Make a note there that it's super urgent, and I can make an effort to get to you offline between tomorrow and the next session, if you like. So just a quick note on that. If you're watching on Instagram, there's a tab at the bottom for you to send in your questions. Please make sure you click on it to send in your questions. It helps us track a lot more efficiently and not miss anything. So let's go. Kosgei. Sorry, as I mentioned, our technical difficulty means I can't read your questions from my unmounted phone. So I have to stare at the screen to look at your questions, or on the side here, there's a larger screen on my side that you can't see. So I'm not ignoring you. I'm reading the question better. So I'll start with yours, Kosgei Kimala. You projects in the Rift? Currently not. We're always scouting, always scouting. It's one of my full-time tasks as a managing director at Goshen Acquisitions. It's one of my responsibilities. I am the chief land scout. So we're always looking, having something in the Rift very soon. By God's grace, I am sure we shall. I'm particularly passionate about that side because it's close to my ancestral home in Webuye, uh, which is in Western Kenya, just about a 45-minute drive from Eldoret town. So I sincerely am looking forward to finding something there that we can make available to all of you. So stay tuned. Thank you for that question, Kosgei. What's our next one? Next one is from Land Surveyor Max. Land Surveyor Max on Instagram. Thank you for tuning in. Your question is, evening, I'm a land surveyor. Do you have land surveying jobs? Yes, we do. It's what we do. Uh, Invariably, we have to survey land before we buy it, and also when we're subdividing and doing planning briefs and so on and so forth. So send in your CV, your profile, and we'll be happy to consider your services. We are very picky. We're hard clients to please because we are sticklers for due process. We have major OCD here at Grand Acres and Goshen Acquisitions. So if you're not excellent in your work, don't bother. We will spit you out faster than you came in. Okay, but yes, send in your profile. Let's have a look. Let's have a chat. See if you're a good fit for what services we need. Thank you for asking. Um, Next one from Washu. Hey Washu, please explain fully and explicitly the difference between subsidiaries and rebranding company. The terms circulating here in the diaspora over the last 2 to 3 weeks. Subsidiaries and rebranding. Okay, Washu, I'm not quite understanding your question. Please provide me some more color. Give me details so I can answer you succinctly, if you would, Washu. Again, your question is, please explain fully and explicitly the difference between subsidiaries and rebranding of a company. The terms are circulating here in the diaspora of the last 2 to 3 weeks. Okay, let me attempt to answer. Washu, I think I understand. If I don't quite answer, let me know as quickly as you can. I want to make sure I answer your question fully. So, a subsidiary, legally speaking, is, if you want to think about a tree, the main company, if you will, and I'll use Goshen Acquisitions and Grand Acres as an example. So Goshen Acquisitions was registered as a company here in Kenya on the 4th of January 2012. We got a registration certificate, so on and so forth, PIN numbers, blah, blah, blah. A fact that you can confirm when you do due diligence on us at the appropriate time, because you will need our registration certificates and other documents in order for you to do so. Grand Acres, on the other hand, was registered in 2020. The year 2020. Initially, Grand Acres was a duly registered trademark of Goshen Acquisitions. And then we registered a company in the name of the trademark, also Grand Acres Limited, specifically to serve as the main vehicle for ownership for some of our inventory, some of our assets, our land, because we're not agents, we're not brokers, we only sell what we own. Okay, so in that instance, Goshen Acquisitions was the main company, a standalone entity, duly registered. Came along Grand Acres, which is also a standalone entity duly registered, about 8 years later. Now, Goshen Acquisitions has shareholders, including myself, primarily. So does Grand Acres. Grand Acres shareholder is 100% Goshen Acquisitions. Okay, that means that Grand Acres is a subsidiary of Goshen Acquisitions, meaning it came after and out of or established as a branch or an arm of Goshen Acquisitions. So technically, that's what a subsidiary means. And a subsidiary could either be wholly owned. In the case of Grand Acres, it's 100% share held or owned fully by Goshen Acquisitions Limited. So it's a wholly owned subsidiary of Goshen Acquisitions. In the instance where at some point we might sell some shares to other investors, people who want to take the long journey with us into growing wealth, building legacy, big investors ideally. So if you have oil money from Saudi Arabia or the Gulf and you're interested in doing so, let's have a chat. We're happy to sell you some shares. If we did do that to whatever degree, either 50%, or let's say we sell 80% of the shares in Grand Acres to other entities other than ourselves, then Goshen Acquisitions will become a minority shareholder of Grand Acres. It will still be a subsidiary of Goshen Acquisitions, except Goshen Acquisitions will have a minority stake in Grand Acres. So a subsidiary is an entity owned by a preceding entity, if that makes sense. And it could be sold to another entity that was registered after Grand Acres. Okay, and if that entity buys Grand Acres totally, then Grand Acres becomes a subsidiary of that company. So a subsidiary is, in a sense, the property of another entity. I hope that makes sense. Okay, now rebranding of a company. Companies can go through rebrands all the time. Most people are familiar with rebrands in a context where a company will refresh its look. So a good example is FedEx. If you look historically, FedEx's original logo versus its current one, not the same, but it's still FedEx, and you can see the transition. It will be obvious to you that they refreshed their brand. Locally here in Kenya, a good one is Java, for example. Java, Nairobi Java House went through a rebrand, I think around 2013, 2014. They refreshed the sun, the smiling sun, whereas it used to be a more serious face. The font changed on the word Java and other things, and they had a big campaign to launch the rebrand. If you look at the before and after, it's obvious to you it's the same company. They have simply refreshed or done a facelift. In the most extreme cases, a company could completely change its name. Yeah, that is possible. A company can apply for a change of name. So Goshen Acquisitions could do a change of name to Greenleaf Holdings, for example. Same shareholding, different name. An accompanying certificate would follow to show that the name has changed. There's a specific legal process one can undergo to do that. Okay? In some cases, for example, Grand Acres, which to this day is a registered trademark of Goshen Acquisitions, Goshen Acquisitions could register a completely different trademark, and it could go something like Red Line or Red Roof Properties, as an example. Red Roof Properties, and that's the logo that you would see on our websites and so on. And that is another form of rebranding, meaning you change the appearance of your external representations, logos, colors, names, such and such. Also very notoriously common in Kenya. Particularly in our space, it's no secret. There's ongoing debates about that. The government is trying to do its own share or its parts to crack down on that activity as well. But that's the difference. And I hope that is clear. Um, and if I haven't answered completely, Washu, like I said, provide me more color and I can get more specific. But that's a great question. Great question, Washu, as always. All right, next one. From Golden Legion on TikTok. Hi, Golden Legion. Thank you for tuning in. Your question is, hey, can you expand on expired lease properties? Okay, Golden Legion on TikTok. I'm not sure what you mean by expand, but in Kenya, we have two types of property ownership tenures. Tenures, Tenures. Okay, tenure. Tenures. Tenure. There are two kinds in Kenya: freehold and leasehold. Okay, leasehold is what you're referring to as lease properties, I presume. If you mean something else, please clarify, and I'll be happy to to pursue that. But this is what you're referring to, leasehold. Now, leaseholds have expiration dates. In Kenya, most leaseholds expire after 99 years of a particular date. In more urban areas like Nairobi, Mombasa, such and such, densely populated commercial urban centers, um, many of these leases are shorter than 99 years with a maximum period of 50 years, 50. Okay, so that means at the end of 50 years, whoever owns that property has to renew the lease. Now, just for clarity, if I own a property whose lease expires after 50 years, okay, it means I have 50 years of enjoyed ownership. Now, over that 50-year period, that property can be sold multiple times. So let's say in 10 years, I sell the property to someone else. That person will have bought the property with 40 years remaining on its lease. Okay, so just because I have sold it to someone doesn't mean that the lease period resets again to another 50 years. No, the 50 years is fixed. Ownership can change any number of times during that 50 years without issue, but every subsequent new owner has less and less time remaining on that lease. That makes sense? That means, say, the fifth person comes and buys when the lease expires, say, in 10 years. They have 10 years before they have to renew that lease. If they don't renew the lease expires. And when a lease expires, the municipal authority or former municipalities or municipal authorities, now county governments, county government with jurisdiction authority over that property, then retains ownership of that plot of land. Now, anything attached to that plot of land, in most cases, would then remain with the new owner, which is a county authority, and the county authority therefore has the right to lease or release that property to someone else completely. So it's very important that you stick to your renewal schedules. You need to know, you can't own an asset and not know what your terms of ownership are. You need to pay attention to when your lease is going to expire, if indeed you are holding a leasehold property, and ensure that you begin your renewal processes in good time so that you're not left hanging, the music stops playing, and you have no chair to sit on. Now, leases are renewable. There's no restriction. You just have to do it in time. And in the case of very premium or primely located properties, as most of Nairobi is, you can understand why there's a motivation for sabotage or foul play, where the authorities could even be hoping and praying you don't renew your lease so that they can allocate it to someone else, themselves or someone they know. This happens all day long, every day. In Nairobi in particular, right now, since the previous county administration. We are in a period of many lease expirations. If you count the number of years since independence, when a lot of leases were issued, new leases, 50 years, we're in a period where many leases are expiring. So it's a very busy time for lease renewals, or rather lease reallocations. So you want to be careful about that. And that's as much as I can say about lease expiration of lease properties, unless you have something else for me to clarify. But that's another great question. Man, you guys must have had tilapia for lunch today because your questions are very decent. Thank you. That was a good question. Okay, next one. Mkurugenzi or Tik. What? Mkuru? Is that Mkuru? For real? It's not Mkuru. It's not Mkuru. It's okay. Mkuru considers all his people Mkurus also. So we salute you, Mkuru. Mkurugenzi on TikTok. Your question is, hi, what is the cheapest plots you have? Thank you for that question and thank you for watching. Number one, we do not sell cheap plots at Goshen Acquisitions or Grand Acres. So if you're looking for a cheap plot, we do not have it. I know what you're asking, and I'm being a bit playful here with the terminology, but these are things we take seriously here at Goshen Acquisitions. Our communication needs to be surgical because it means something. What you're asking is, what is the lowest priced property that we have? For us at the moment, that is in Imbuko. Imbuko 5, I believe we have 2 plots remaining only. Yeah, 2 plots remaining. If you're watching us on Facebook, Twitter, where else? Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. If you're watching us from Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn, our disc jockey is somewhere in the background. Mr. George Kagwe is playing a video on Imbuko 5, located in the southern part of Kajiado County, on your way towards the Amboseli National Park before the border with Tanzania. Amazing place, stunning panoramic views for 360 degrees. On a clear day, Mount Kilimanjaro, the world's tallest freestanding mountain, staring you right in the face. Breathtaking, virgin land, virgin soils, excellent for farming if that's what you want to do. Amazing opportunities in ecotourism because of the proximity to Amboseli National Park. Just all around amazing place. As natural as God made it. Besides our Maram roads, as you can see, if you're watching the video, we did all weather Maram roads so that you can drive to your property even in the rainy season. Those are currently going for 1.19 million shillings only for an entire acre, one whole acre for 1.19 million shillings. Think about that value for a second. Okay, most land companies in Kenya today, if you look at them, 99.99% of them will sell 50 by 100s only. 50 by 100 is 1/8 of an acre, which means you're buying an acre that has been subdivided 8 times and one piece of it. And most of those are priced anywhere, I think majority of those are priced around 300,000 shillings. Some go as high as 700,000 depending on location, this, that, and the other. But very comparable to Imbuko 5, most will be selling for 300, 400,000 shillings for 1/8 of an acre, which means you're practically paying about 2.4 million shillings to 3.2 million shillings in equivalent for a whole acre. So 1.19 million shillings for an entire acre of land in Imbuko is amazing value. That is the lowest price property we have here at Goshen Acquisitions, and not for very long because there's only 2 remaining, and our next phases will be priced slightly higher. to reflect the passage of time and any other value additions we continue to do to the site. Okay, and if you're curious about our other projects, we'd love for you to take a look at our website, www.grandacres.co.ke, and you will be able to see what else we have in inventory available for you to consider. But to answer your question briefly, as I close, is 1.19 million shillings for an entire acre of land in Imbuko, South Kajiado. That is the lowest priced property we have. Not cheap by any stretch of the imagination, but it's great value. I doubt anyone would dispute that. So I hope I've answered your question well. Thank you for it. Aticare, ATI Care. Okay, Aticare on TikTok. Thank you for watching, Aticare. Your question is, when the future of Kajiado land, oh, sorry, let me repeat that. What's the future of Kajiado land now that they are no longer doing 50 by 100s? First of all, I salute you for even knowing that. Most people are completely clueless, never keep track of what's going on in the land policy space. And just for anyone else who might have heard that, not have heard about that, Kajiado County launched a new county spatial plan about 4 weeks ago, or thereabout, 4 to 5 weeks ago, which in essence has banned the subdivision of 50 by 100 plots forever within the county. This is a result of an act of the county assembly, which has ratified the new zoning plan for the entire county. And a huge congratulations to Kajiado County's government, led currently by His Excellency Mr. Olelenku, who's serving his second term as governor. Big up to the administration for getting this through. I know they've been working on it for some time, as are many other counties. So what that means basically is that anyone selling or providing or producing 50 by 100, to be clear, 50 by 100 is in feet, 50 feet by 100 feet. That's the size or the dimensions generally used to refer to 1/8 acre plots. A 1/8 acre plot dimensionally is generally 50 feet by 100 feet. Okay, so that's what we mean by 50 by 100. Anyone producing one after the county launched its new county spatial plan has done something completely illegal and should be treated with the contempt that they deserve, because they are simply looking to defraud members of the public. Stay away from them. Not only that, report them to the authorities so that they don't con someone else. That's what it means. This is great for Kajiado County because they have rationalized the use of the land within the county to allow for commercial activity. So there are zones where you can 50 by 100s. Generally, they have to be in a gazetted commercial area or peri-urban area, Kitengela, Kisaju, Kajiado Town, Isinya. In most of these places, you'll have a 2-kilometer radius restriction, outside of which you are not permitted to subdivide 50 by 100s at all. So you need to know what the location of that 50 by 100 is if you're considering buying one. If it's outside of the gazetted zones, and this is information that a registered planner can provide for you, your surveyor, if you hire a licensed surveyor, like we recommend that you do on our Grand Acres checklist, 9 steps to safe land buying in Kenya, a surveyor will help you determine that. Even your lawyer can determine or help you determine that. So what this means is there's going to be a lot more order in Kajiado County as far as zoning or land use, space use is concerned. There'll be no more confusion like you see in places like Kitengela, where you have factories next to farms. On the other side, there's a housing estate. I mean, it's a mess. Call a spade a spade. It's a mess. And it's the reason the current administration has gone through extraordinary lengths and taken extraordinary measures to bring a sense of order to the county, which will increase value for the rest of the land, provide rationalized spaces for people to engage in specific activity, whether it's mining, there are mining zones, whether it's agriculture, you know exactly what is permitted there. If it's for residential, there are restrictions and policies, things you have to put in place for the land to be used adequately for residential purposes safely and without degrading the land or degrading the indignity of the people that live there. So do yourself a favor, go to Kajiado County's portal. It's available. If you don't know how to navigate that, ask a licensed surveyor to grab one for you. Familiarize yourself with it before you make any land buying decisions in Kajiado County going forward. And even if you're buying something that was historically produced, do your due diligence and make sure it was done right. Because even before they did this and it was possible to do 50 by 100s, a lot of it was done illegally and procedurally, meaning outside of laid out due process, which means your title is in jeopardy or in danger of being nullified potentially at some undisclosed or unknown point of the future. Happens all the time. So do your due diligence. Be informed. At the end of the day, there's no excuses. You can't say that so and so conned me because what was your responsibility? Did you do due diligence? Did you just close your eyes and say the deal was too good to look away? Maybe no one will find out. Did you participate in the bribery or the illegality that produced that? We have to look internally, look at ourselves, avoid problems, buy land safely, be kind to yourself, go to our website, absolutely free resource we created just for you, our beloved viewers and Kenyan investors. Go to www.grandacres.co.ke, download the checklist, it's absolutely free. The 9 steps to safe land ownership or land buying in Kenya. And I promise you, that will eliminate 99.99% chance of you getting defrauded, conned, or making a wrong decision. So happy investing to you. Or as we say here at Goshen Acquisitions, grand acres to you. Cool. Next question. I see there's a question from Adams. Can I see that question from Adams? It's been up for a while. Adams, thanks for watching. Adams, you're watching from Saudi Arabia. Man, please bring back some of that oil money. Yeah, bring it. Invest back home. There's plenty of room and space for that. And your question is, I have always followed your insights and tips. We appreciate you, bro. Man, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for those kind words. Thank you for watching and following. I hope you've learned something that's been meaningful to you, and we appreciate you too, brother. Thank you. Martin Nyamu, following from Nanyuki. What's up, Martin? Thank you for watching from Nanyuki, one of my most favorite places in Kenya. I'll actually be there tomorrow for some errand that I have to run for the day. Thank you for watching, Martin. Rafiki Concepts Limited. You say, Mr. Solomon, the Grand Master, we would like to, I've been called the Grand Master. Is it the gray beard? I promise you I'm going to dye these things immediately. But thank you for the compliment. We would like to know if the registry index map of an area can be altered by the bad guys. That's a great question, Rafiki Concepts. In theory, it is possible. I mean, this is the ugly, rotten, insidious truth about corruption, is that anything becomes possible for the right price. If you find the right person who is positioned adequately to mess with those documents and you pay them enough, in theory, it is possible. But it is incredibly difficult to do. Incredibly difficult. Why? Because there's only so many original copies of a registry index map. In case you've never interacted with one, whenever you go to the Department of Survey the relevant one for your area, to ask for the registry index map that includes your specific property. If you're there for the whole process, you will notice that they will go to a drawer, one of those giant metallic drawers specifically designed to hold large format maps, A0s and so on. They are clear vellum sheets. They're like very thick tracing paper. Most of these were produced way back in time, and they get amended periodically as people subdivide or combine properties or change shapes and blah blah blah. If everyone does what they're supposed to, like we do at Goshen Acquisitions, those get updated periodically and consistently. And because there's only so many copies, I think there's probably just one copy of an IRIM for most places. In some cases, there might be two. There's very limited access to those documents. And whenever it's changed, they keep a log of who is changing or handling. And the only way that registry index map gets altered is if the provincial surveyor's office, the one that's in charge of amending registry index maps, receives a letter, a formal letter from the senior lands registrar in the relevant registry for that property, requesting them to update the registry index map. And that letter will be accompanied by the mutation form approved by the county surveyor as a result of approvals by the Land Control Board, especially when you're dealing with agricultural land. So there's a long chain of events that leads to a registrar sending a forwarding letter to the provincial surveyor asking them to amend the registry index map to reflect the newly approved mutation form for that property. So you can see it's not something that one can do easily. That gives me comfort. But this is why it becomes important for you, Rafiki Concepts Limited, when you go to get a copy of a registry index map, you ensure that it is a certified copy. It can't just be a copy, because I could manufacture any map, print it on the blueprint, and tell you it's a registry index map. With Photoshop and Adobe today and a good graphic designer, we can do miracles. Throw into that AI, as everyone is using. We can do amazing things and present falsehoods to you as though they were true. So make sure you get certified copies only. How do you know it's certified? It'll have an original ink stamp by the relevant county surveyor usually, and they will countersign and date for the day that they have stamped it. Along with that, you'll have to see the original payment receipt for that certified copy of the registry index map, because you have to pay the Department of Survey, Ministry of Lands, Kenyan government for that copy, for that certification. Just as you would if you went to a lawyer and asked them to certify an ID, a birth certificate, blah, blah, blah. Most good lawyers will ask you to pay a fee for the certification. Okay, same thing with the government. You pay a fee, it's 300 shillings is the official fee. They give you a receipt, you present it to the guys who handle the maps, and they produce for you as many copies as you're paid for. So make sure you look at the registry index map with a certification stamp and accompanied with a receipt, even if maybe not accompanied with a receipt. For example, at Goshen Acquisitions, anytime we sell subdivided land that we own, along with your title, we will provide you certified copies of mutation forms, and the registry index map so that you have complete documentation. In that instance, because we paid for, say, 80 maps in one go, we may not be able to give you the original copy of the receipt that shows we paid for 80 copies. But we can give you a copy of the receipt, or we can let you see, come to the office and view the receipt if you like, to ensure that we paid, that we did the right thing. We paid the government, the certification is legitimate, and you can always go to the registry and counter check for yourself. Okay, so no shortcuts, guys. There is no other way to have peace of mind when you buy. Do the right thing. I know it's a bit of a hassle. Who cares? You're risking capital, precious capital, money, presumably you worked hard for. Even if someone gave you the money, it's a precious resource. Have some respect for your resource. Follow due process. I don't care if it's your mother who told you to cut corners, or your dad, or your lawyer, or the Pope himself. Forget them. Follow the due process. Have peace of mind. Have unimpeachable ownership. Have documents that cannot be challenged, duly certified by the relevant authorities because you paid the required fees and can prove it with a receipt. Otherwise, if you have problems and you end up in court trying to state your case and you don't have these documents, your testimony is considered hot air because you have no proof that you followed due process. Case in point, this week, I don't know if you guys saw that in the news, two families have been squabbling over a very expensive property worth billions of shillings. Billions. Where's my phone? I'm actually gonna just indulge me. I'm gonna read this for you guys, just so you get the point. Okay, this was in the news this week, I think, either this week or last week. Let me pull that up. Okay, this was in the Business Daily on Tuesday of this week, August the 15th, 2023. I don't know if you can see that on the screen. Gladys, is it viewable? Okay, there we go. Can you guys see that title? Go to the Business Daily website, look for that title. Daniel Moy era diplomat loses claim to 2,500 acre Naivasha land. Do you guys have any clue how much 2,500 acres is worth today? That's multi-generational wealth. If you're the owner of 2,500 acres today in Naivasha, you are officially in the top 1% globally. I dare say probably even the top 0.5% or top 1/4% of the entire human race in terms of wealth. Okay, there we go. So what's this article about? You can read it in detail for yourselves. But in essence, a certain individual sued another individual as a company in 2021, claiming ownership of the land, and they sought compensation for the other party's alleged destruction and trespass on the property. Okay. Naivasha High Court Judge Lynette Omolo has dismissed both parties' suits and counterclaims against each other, a move that now creates mystery over the property's ownership. Why? Because the court decided neither of you can prove with believable documentation that either of you is a bona fide owner of this land. Okay, so the land has been occupied for donkey years by a number of individuals. Someone else came along, demolished their fence, and claimed that they've occupied it illegally. They both presented a claim for the property. This one says, I was here first. This guy is trying to grab my land. The other one says, no, it was always mine, but they came in and grabbed it before it was registered to me, blah, blah, blah. And as a result of a court hearing, and I'll read this, okay? I'll just read it. Mr. Such and Such claimed to have purchased the land in 2007 from various individuals who were allotted the property by the Agricultural Development Corporation. Another reason I tell people all the time, do not deal with property that has allotment letters or share certificates. Absolutely worthless. If it doesn't have a title deed for your own peace of mind, stay away. Please do yourself a favor, because crap like this comes up to haunt you later. Potentially, very high risk of this happening. So it goes on to say that he did not, however, file. So this guy, this gentleman, is claiming ownership because they say they purchased the land, meaning they paid someone for the land in 2007, who were allotted the property by a government agency, an ADC, Agricultural Development Corporation. But it goes on to say that this individual, however, never filed any evidence of sale agreements or payment for the land, could not prove He had no RTGS, Swift confirmation, copies of checks, whatever manner that he used to supposedly or allegedly pay for the land, he had no documentation to prove. During the hearing, this individual said he did due diligence on the property, but could not confirm if the process indicated that the people he paid were listed as registered owners. In short, his due diligence was crap. Okay. Later on, the other party insisted that the land has never belonged to the ABC. It was originally owned by a white settler, a white British settler, a Mr. Gilbert Preville Colville, and that they purchased the land from this individual. And they used to be workers of this individual, and he sold the land to his workers, which happened a lot. I'll admit, historically, a lot of the white settlers, when they left Kenya after independence, chose to sell or gift the lands that they owned to their workers, the people they had been living with, and so on and so forth. So that is plausible. But they argued that they received a title deed for the land in 1974. So 1974, 2007, many years have passed. But a Justice Omolo of the Nakuru High Court said that neither party had given sufficient evidence to prove ownership. Therefore, the order was issued by the court that neither of them are the bona fide owner, which means now the property is in limbo. Likely, two outcomes: both these parties will escalate this matter to Court of Appeal, okay? Or the land will be given to the county government to decide what they want to do with it. And this is what happens when you don't have documentation. So that stupid 300 shilling payment receipt for your registry index map could very well mean the difference between you losing land to another knucklehead who comes out later to claim ownership or not. So this is why we at Goshen Acquisitions Grand Acres are super passionate about just sharing with you why you need to follow due process. Do not take any shortcuts. It's 300 shillings here, 500 shillings there. Pay the relevant office. Don't pay clerks a facilitation fee to fast track things for you and not have receipts, because this is what you potentially expose yourself to. So I hope I have made my point, and safe and happy investing to you. Great question. Thank you. Paul Kuria. Hi, Grandmaster. Wait, okay, that's become my new title. Meskia, Grandmaster, it goes with the office. What strategies can be employed to maximize the value of land, banking, investments over time? That's an awesome question, Paul. I actually did a video about this once before. Simple things you can do, for example, is fence, secure the property's boundary. The kind of fence you will pick will determine its value as well. Okay? Concrete posts, much more durable than wooden posts, especially when you think about termites. Chain link is a lot less desirable than stone fencing, for instance. You know, if I gave you the choice between two properties, same size, same location, one has a nice stone fence, the other has chain link with wooden posts, which one do you think would be more desirable? The stone one. It seems more permanent, more secure. The stone is prettier, blah, blah, blah. I can actually collect a premium over and above the price of the next property just for that reason. So a great way to increase value while you're land banking is to fence the property. Another way is to vegetate it or plant trees, beautify it, do some landscaping. Planting trees is a great way to add value because Kenyans value trees. And depending on what sort of tree you grow, you can actually multiply the value of that land just on the value of the trees. Okay, I'll give you an example. So where I'm from, Webuye in Bungoma County. My family home, Standing Place, thanks to my grandfather's foresight and vision. May God rest his soul in eternal peace. I look forward to seeing my grandpa one day in heaven. He planted trees on the boundary of his land. His land was, I'd say, somewhere around 50, 51 acres. On opposite ends of the land, he planted, indigenous eucalyptus trees. Today, those things are so huge you can't hug that tree. They're like the size of a building almost. Massive indigenous eucalyptus trees, tens of feet tall. Amazing. Um, Both my dad and an uncle of mine periodically will cull the trees or chop down the trees to harvest them for wood or to sell to Kenya Power that's looking to do rural electrification, and they were short on power. So they, at one point, they actually came knocking and asked, "Can you sell us about 300 trees?" Those trees were selling for, at the time, I think it was 9 to 10,000 bulbs each. Today they are a lot more expensive. Do the math. 300 times 9,000 shillings. That's a lot of money. It's not pocket change, right? That's 900,000 times three. That's 2.7 million shillings. Boom, just like that. And you couldn't tell that a tree had been chopped down because there were so many trees still left. That's how dense the property had become. And because they are indigenous trees, they have reshooted and are growing. They're several feet tall now. And in a much shorter period of time, there'll be more mature trees that could be harvested again. This is value that the land keeps spitting out over and over again without you having to sell the land. And I might add, the value of the trees that were sold at that time were probably way more than what my grandfather paid for that land whenever he did. So another great way to add value to land while you're holding it is to plant trees, do landscaping, that sort of thing. Anything else you can do in terms of utilities, doing a sequential batch reactor, which is a miniaturized waste treatment plant to handle waste sustainably, because SBR units, that's what the acronym that is used for sequential batch reactors, which is essentially a miniature waste treatment plant, will produce recyclable water, which you can use for landscaping, to water your trees, so on and so forth. Anything of value that you can do will, without doubt, add value to that property even while you hold it, without you needing to live there. So these are some of the ways I recommend that people, or the strategies people use to add value to their land, to guarantee better desirability for that land whenever you do decide to sell it or gift it to your next generation. Because at the end of the day, always keep in mind that the value of anything on this planet, whether it's gold, whether it's cars, whether it's clothes, jewelry of all sorts, artwork, land, houses, any kinds of properties, the value of anything in this planet is determined by the number of human beings who desire to possess it. The more people that want to desire or desire to possess a thing, the higher its value, even if nothing about the thing has been changed. If 100 people want the same thing, its value is going to be different from when 1,000 people want it. The more people there are that want it, the higher the value. So what you want to do is make sure that your property becomes as desirable as possible to the highest number of people, so that its value goes up. And that's always a good thing. I hope I've answered your question. Excellent one. Susanna Temba. I hope I got that right. TikTok watchers. Okay, apologies to all of you on TikTok, our family on TikTok. We've had technical issues with TikTok today. Please forgive. We will, replay this session as we always do. We record and replay, so you can catch it later and relook it. So please forgive that. Apologies. My lovely team back here is telling me we've had issues on that. So, Poleni. Okay, Susanna Temba. Susanna Temba on Instagram. Hi, Susanna. Thank you for watching. Your question is, how can I start buying land even when I can't come to Kenya at the moment and want to start investing? It's very easy, Susanna. Um, do your due diligence even remotely. Step number one in your case, because you're not here to scout and do all that, is identify a trusted individual in your circle, whether it be a family member or a friend or a professional that you're paying, with clear terms of engagement signed. Have them visit the property that you're interested in, okay, just to make sure it exists on the ground as it has been represented to you. Unfortunately, because you're not here, you'd have to lean very heavily on their assessment. So make sure you don't just pick someone because they're a friend or family. If they're an idiot who doesn't know how to tell the difference between a good investment and a bad one, it doesn't matter that they're related to you, okay? They'll still get you in a hole. So pick people with some brains, some exposure, they're knowledgeable, they know what a good deal is versus a bad one, they know how to assess the desirability of a property, okay? Have them go and look at the land for you and give you a report. Quiz the seller as much as you need to do so to be comfortable. Do not be rushed into anything at all. It's not worth the risk. Have peace along the process. It's not talked about a lot because we land sellers, we prefer to sell quickly. Who doesn't? We're in business. The faster we can complete a transaction, the cheaper it is for us, the more we can do with the revenue generated, such and such, the faster we can pay back our lenders and that sort of thing. But do not be rushed into anything if you're not ready. Quiz them, ask all the questions you need. To assist you with that process, Susanna Temba, please, if you haven't heard me say it already, go to grandacres.co.ke because it's the only place you will find such a resource. Find the tab that says checklist and download the free copy of the 9 steps to safe land buying in Kenya. It's a resource we created just for people like you so that you know what to do from step 1 to the end. And there's 9 steps on that checklist. We have summarized it. If you expand those items on that list, there'll probably be like 3 billion of them. I'm exaggerating, but you get my point. It's a very concise, step-by-step process, what to do in sequence to ensure that you don't skip any critical steps that could expose you, but also that ensure that you have safe and unimpeachable ownership of the land when you're done. Critical to that will be identifying a licensed advocate to help you navigate the legal process. But since you're not here, send someone you trust who knows what to look for to be your eyes and ears and feet on the ground. Ask the seller for as much information, images, videos. It's why we at Goshen Acquisitions, Grand Acres invest so much in our content creation so that we can present the truest picture of the reality on the ground. We don't do stock images or, this place is good for residential, but then we show you a picture of an African-American family in a house that doesn't exist on the site to tell you what the future might be. That's absolutely dishonest, in my humble opinion. We don't do that. We take actual videos of the site and photos. So anything you'll find on our website is real. Send your trusted individual to come and confirm that what we have represented to you is the case on the ground. Get your licensed advocate, follow step 1 to 9 on the checklist, and Bob's your uncle, as we say. Okay?
So we have 1 minute to 8.
Uh-huh.
We're requesting if we could extend by 15 minutes because we won't be able to respond to the first.
Who's requesting?
Just the time.
Yeah, the team is asking me to extend the time, but I will not. We respect everyone's time. Our Q&A sessions are supposed to go for an hour, and we'll keep it that. I'd rather answer 2 questions well than rush through a number of questions and give shallow answers. So if you have a question we haven't gotten to, please forgive again. send a message on our WhatsApp number, if you would kindly do so, 0700010001. I'll repeat that again. It's 0700010001. Just give us your handle as you have logged in and your question. And I promise you, I will make time between now and our next live session, which incidentally is going to be on Tuesday of next week. We introduced a call-in session where we're taking your questions on speaker. You can call, dial the number, have a conversation live so that others can have the benefit of learning from the answer we might have for you. Um, I'll promise to get back to you before then. Or you can even just DM us on the platform that you're watching. If it's Instagram, DM us there, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and we will get back to you ASAP. Okay? Um, I'll tackle one last one real quick. We're 1 minute past, but we started about 2 or 3 minutes past 7. What was the next one? Hardy Group. Hey guys, as always, thank you for tuning in. On Instagram, your question is, in what ways have gender-related issues influenced land ownership and access for women in Kenya? Wow, that's a great question, Hardy Group. Okay, gender-related issues have influenced land ownership significantly in Kenya, particularly because of the new constitution that was promulgated in the year 2010, which basically guaranteed property ownership rights to every Kenyan, regardless of gender or ethnicity. If you're a Kenyan, born in Kenya or naturalized into Kenyan citizenship, you have the legal and constitutional right to own land anywhere within the sovereign boundaries of the Republic of Kenya, regardless of where you come from. So this has actually caused a lot of people to look for opportunities outside their ancestral zones, which I think is awesome. It's a beautiful thing, and more of it needs to happen. Okay, and especially on the gender issue, communities like the Maasai or the Maa people traditionally have a custom where women are not given land or do not inherit land. Only men or boys inherit land, or the males inherit land. Women were never accounted for. Under the 2010 Constitution, the woman, or the woman, or the girl child has a right to inherit. Even if she is not of age, meaning 18, carrying an ID, and so on, their interest as an inheritance is heavily considered. So people can no longer just sell land willy-nilly without consideration of their heirs or successors. If the heirs or successors raise their voice, the authorities step in and things go sideways very quickly, which is why today one of the requirements for the transfer of property is a spousal consent. If the property is owned by an individual and they're selling it to a company or another individual, one of the documents they have to provide the registry before a transfer can be effected is an affidavit sworn by the spouse. Whether it's male or female doesn't matter. This is especially good for women who traditionally have always been left out in land selling or property selling decisions because the man of the house will sell. The wife thought that they have this property, but it turns out that they didn't because the man sold it without her knowledge and she didn't see a single coin. Sad but very common story, particularly in rural Kenya. This is no longer possible because that man has to provide spousal consent, an affidavit sworn by the spouse that they are aware of the property, that they are okay and consent to its selling and have no objection. Big pain in the ass, excuse my French, for the patriarchy who have benefited wantonly over the years from this sort of activity. but it's great. I salute the government for having the foresight to include this in the processes and policies required for the transfer of property. So that has automatically included women and allowed women to be part of the conversation, as they very well should. Okay, so these are just some of the ways that gender-related issues are now influencing the land ownership profile in Kenya. It's no coincidence, for instance, as Goshen Acquisitions and Grand Acres, that majority of our customers, for some reason, are women, and many of those are single mothers or single women, even if they don't have children. And for me, that's a great thing. It's a sign of progress, because as a segment of our community that had been disenfranchised for so long historically is now actively participating in investment, property ownership, which only builds the economy and guarantees safer financial futures, better financial stability for all. Because data has proven that if you give a man 100 shillings, very little of that will end up in the community, because he'll spend it on himself, either drink it away or enjoy it with his friends. Whereas if you give the 100 shillings to the women, they tend to spend it on their family and the community, and everyone benefits. The same is true in the investment sector. This has been my observation, and I think it's an all-round positive thing. So I hope I've answered your question, Ahadi Group. That's the end of my sermon today, good people. It's 7 minutes past 8. Apologies for going over, but I thank you all from the bottom of my heart for making time to join us today. We love you all, and we look forward to having another session with you. I see one last comment here from Mark Gasheru. Buana Wangwe and team, no question for you today. Thank you for availing this forum to educate and inform. Thank you, Mark Gasheru, for watching. We consider it a privilege and look forward to continuing to do this for as long as you will find it beneficial. So God bless you all. Have a lovely night, and see you all next week. Cheers.
Hapa nilikuja bila kitu na sitoki bila kitu, mwanangu azaliwe na kakitu, usitoke bila kitu. Aye, kila siku naishi kama sina kitu, mishowe miliwe na kakitu, akisitoke bila kitu. I wanna be my home with you, I'm putting all my hope in you, and I could be anywhere